All right, then here we are. Here is the machinery, my gaming PC in a gorgeous fractal case. I have a separate video on the whole build if you want to watch that. And there is the Xbox Series X. And look at all the cable behind there. I have this USB-C hub that I sometimes use to connect my laptop or phone into when I want fast upload speeds for YouTube videos. Here are my Thrustmaster TSA flight controllers, some plants, and Xbox controller that's made from recycled plastic. It's green. I thought it's quite like earthy, so it'll look nice next to the plants. A schedule for the kids, and Lego Technic vehicles that we built over Christmas. And behind here, there's the Nintendo Switch that I don't really play that often. I purchased it for the kids like 2 years ago and they only just got into it. And there's my TV, LG C1, 55-inch, and my sound system is a Samsung Q95 T, and it has rear speakers, upwards firing, and front firing as well. Another one in that corner. And yeah, this is my setup. And when people ask me, what are your plans for tonight? I'm like, ta-da! Ta-da! I love sitting here. I'm really comfortable. And next to it, I have a sofa desk. And I also use this for the iPad. So I use my MX mouse for my laptop, iPad, and PC. And thankfully, it has like 3 different selection options and wireless keyboard. So when I'm not using the PC, I remove the keyboard and I have my M1 MacBook here or my iPad. It's honestly amazing. Like, I've worked on this for hours. It's so comfortable. And when I go to someone else's house and I need to do work, I just bring this and I can sit with them in the lounge and do work and not miss not having a desk. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, let's probably start with firing up the Xbox. Hello from England and welcome to my comparison of my PC, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch. I am not an influencer, so this comparison is going to be done from the perspective of a regular person, in the sense of what is it actually like to live with all of these 3. I'm going to give you the conclusions right away in the beginning, and later in this video I'm going to deep dive into some of the quirks and features that make each one of these really unique. So let's start off with the Nintendo Switch. I think this is the best console for pure fun. The best way to explain it is that the Mario games especially are quite comparable to animated Disney movies. No matter if you like movies like John Wick, when you watch an animated Disney movie, some parts of it will make you smile. There's that magic that Disney does in movies, animated one, that comparable studios can't, including DreamWorks. And it's the same with Mario games. Some of the interactions are like, how did you think of those? They are really good. So the Mario games are like eating a cinnamon bun. They make you smile. And there are also a lot of games on the Switch that can be played in short bursts, which is great if you're time poor or you want to play on a train or anywhere else where you might just have 10 or 20 minutes to play. You just pick this one up, press the power button, and you're in right away. The Switch is also the best console for 2-player games. There are a lot of them on here, and many of them are traditional 2-player games where it's split screen and sometimes it's not split screen. And the learning curve for a lot of those games are not steep at all, which means that no matter who's in your house, they'll be able to join in and learn how to play the game within like 1 or 2 minutes. This is really in contrast to multiplayer games on the Series X, which there aren't that many of, and on it the majority of them are co-op games, and they require skills and communication and might make things a bit stressful between you and the person you're playing with, versus 2-player games where you're either against each other or against the computer, which you can just dive in, beat each other, button mash, etc. And it's less stressful if you're not that skilled. So for two-player games, it's absolutely genius, and that can be done either on the small screen or on a big screen. And another plus side is that Nintendo games have high resale value as well. They're always sought after because they're fun and they have a really high replay value. Because although some games are easy to learn, it's not too easy like mobile phone games that can be super fun for the first like 1 or 2 hours, but then after a couple of days, you're like really bored out of them. So overall, for pure fun, multiplayer and child friendliness, I highly recommend the Switch, especially for kids, because there are many child friendly games and also other titles for maybe teenagers. They don't have a lot of profanity in the cutscenes. So it's a banging console, highly like it. And actually, where is it? I have a sleeve for it. Where is the sleeve? Aha, here is the sleeve. It's kind of a sleeve case that gives it a little bit of girth and makes it grippier and easy to hold if you have big hands. So I highly recommend one of these. They're not expensive at all, probably like £10. And yeah, just makes it feel more like you're holding an Xbox controller. So that's the Switch, really good. And that then brings me to the Xbox Series X. What stands out about this is that it's probably Game Pass. Game Pass is awesome. Like if you're someone who isn't that super clued up about games, especially like RPG titles or anime games, etc., then the Xbox Series X, especially with Game Pass, is fantastic for sampling games. And this includes access to first-party titles on the day of release as well, which is good. But even if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, the Xbox Store is fantastic for sales. Like games are discounted there absolutely all the time. Like if a new game comes out and it's at £60, if you just wait 1 year, 1.5 years, you'll be able to find that in the Xbox Store for less than half that price. And that is super nice. And even if you don't buy games from the store, there is a disc drive, and used games are pretty cheap as well. Like I buy used copies on eBay for £8 or even like £15, play the games, and once I'm bored or I have completed them, I sell them on. So that is really good as well. And it's probably the feature that stands out the most about the Xbox is that games are really, really cheap. And for a flagship console, it's very quiet. It has this chimney design that pulls all the air upwards, and it's super quiet. Like you can play AAA titles in the same room as someone who's asleep, and they will likely not know that you're even playing anything because it's super quiet. And the design is a little bit boring. It's just a box, but it's super durable. It can be picked up, handled. I take my Xbox between my house and my girlfriend's house in a backpack, and as you can see, there's no cracks or dents. It can even be positioned horizontally as well. So it's a very durable box, and it blends in as well. The best person for the Series X, it's probably an individual who just plays 1 or 2 games. Like you either only play FIFA, Valorant, Call of Duty, etc. And in the evenings, you like already know which game you're gonna play, which is the same game you played last week or the previous month, and you just fire up the Xbox and you dive in there and play. It's capable enough to play some of those really popular titles at 4K, not native 4K, but it's upscaled. Some can be played at 120 frames per second, other at 60. So there is a bit of flexibility there. HDR is beautiful, and also the same applies to Dolby Vision HDR, but also Dolby Atmos. Everything works out of the box. So if you're someone who wants convenience of playing popular games with your friends, this is an absolute banging machine. And the storage on here is pretty good as well. It's about 1 TB, and games load incredibly fast thanks to quick resume. So that is an Xbox. It's best for those competitive titles. And you can also plug in mouse and keyboard, which gives you excellent flexibility if you feel like you really need the ability to use mouse and keyboard, but in the past you would have had to buy a PC. But now you can choose controller, mouse and keyboard all on your Xbox, and that gives it a bit of like PC-like capabilities. There is also a browser on here, Microsoft Edge browser, that you could use if you want to do some light browsing. So the next one is the PC. So this has an RTX 4070 Ti Super, and the CPU is a Radeon 5800X3D. Sorry, all these terminologies can be a little bit tricky to remember. And the PC, I would say, is the best platform to own right now, because a lot of things are changing, and those things are that Xbox are bringing more titles to PC and they're available at the same time, and Sony are now going to bring more games to PC as well. So therefore, with the PC, you can play PC only games, you can play Xbox titles, and now going forward, you'll be able to play PlayStation 5 titles as well. And so that makes it really compelling, which means that you have one machine that can almost play every single game that's out there, except for Nintendo games, of course. But that's a really interesting proposition. And on gaming as well, with PC, once you've purchased a game, you own it forever. You can just keep playing it, and if you upgrade your hardware, you will unlock better performance, whether it's frame rate, graphics, or textures, etc. And that is quite cool, because you don't need to worry about next-gen patches and updates as well. And I've also come to the realization that on this generation of console, like Xbox, PS5, and the Nintendo Switch, is that there aren't that many truly new and original games on them, but there are a lot of titles that are just remaster of the versions that existed for the previous generation, and those versions were remaster of the games that came before then as well. So it feels like over the past couple of years with consoles, like you own one, you purchase the game for the console, and then when you buy the next console, you end up buying the same game that you owned before, but with slightly better graphics, and then that just keeps going. So it feels like you're being a little bit conned. But with PC, if there's a game that you bought 15 years ago, you can still play it, and you can play it without having to pony up another 50 or 60 pounds just to play that same game. And if you like eye candy, PC is best. Like native 4K looks a lot crispier than upscaled 4K. And I don't mean upscaled as in AI upscale, but old-fashioned upscale, whether it's checkerboarding, etc. Like a lot of games on the Xbox, when they're played on the TV, they look a little bit soft. And I didn't realize how soft they looked until I got this PC in December last year and was like, wow, holy Batman, like instantly on the menu screens, I can see that everything was a lot sharper, and it felt like I had upgraded the TV, honestly. Like if you have an Xbox and you have an LG C1 like I have, and you want to spend money on a new TV for better like image quality when you're playing, don't do that. Just get a PC. It's gonna lift up everything, whether it's text, textures, and just colors. Like everything pop a lot more. Another plus side with PC is that the components are upgradable. I purchased this with a 4070, and 5 months later I felt like actually I want a little bit more headroom for 4K quality, because when I was playing 4K with DLSS and FrameGen, I was at around 60 to 70 FPS for some titles, but with the upgraded GPU, I'm hitting 100 to 120 consistently, which is quite nice. And the PC also feels very personal. It becomes like an object of pride, because there's a gazillion different cases now, like some are not even that expensive. And next year, I'm even considering taking all of the components and putting them into a mini ITX case that's probably around 30% larger than the Xbox. So it's fun. It's fun to think, play with RGB, look at YouTube videos and see what other people have built, and either replicate that or tweak it to your own liking. So a PC is super good for that. And so if you want access to as many games as possible and you love eye candy, then the PC is the bomb. Now we're going to cover some of the cons, and let's go back to the Switch. A major downside is that games are expensive. Mario and Zelda games are between 40 and 50 pounds, and they're never on sale. Literally, you would find games that came out 3-4 years ago and they're still at full price. And if you look for used copies, you only save about 20% or something. And that can be a little bit disturbing, because if you're used to the Xbox where you can access games with Game Pass on day one, or you can buy a used game for like £10, it then feels really expensive paying 40 or 50 pound for a title that came out 5 years ago. It might sound like penny pinching, but if you want to buy 3 games and all of them are £40 each, then that does add up to quite a lot of money. Graphically, the Switch can also be a bit underwhelming if you try to play like triple title games, and you can see that the graphics are a major downgrade on these other 2 platforms, and it almost feels like you're playing a game that's 10 or 15 years older. It doesn't matter that much for some titles such as like Mario Wonder, 3D World, etc. Like they all look fun and cute, and there's really no PC or Xbox equivalent which you can compare the graphics to, so you just focus on gameplay. But if you see some other games like Grand Theft Auto or Assassin's Creed type games, if they're Hogwarts that exists on the Switch, and it looks barely playable, and so that's a downside. And there's no Call of Duty, Valorant, or these like first-person shooter games like Fortnite. So it feels like you are missing out on those. That could change with the Switch 2, which I believe it could even be comparable to a Series S in quality, or a PS4. So hopefully that will allow Switch owners to have their cake and eat it too, which is to play Mario and Zelda games, but then also be able to play AAA titles as well. So games are quite expensive. The screen, I don't play on this screen that much because my eyes hurt a little bit, or they get tired after 20 minutes. So I prefer playing it on the screen. I prefer playing it on the TV. So therefore, if you're someone who's primarily buying it to play in handheld mode, you might want to consider the OLED variant that has a bigger screen, or just bear that in mind that it might not be comfortable to play on for hours, but that really depends on your eyes, because I know some people who just play in handheld mode. They play the Switch in bed, during lunchtime at work, basically anywhere, and the screen size does not really bother them at all. So those are the cons of the Switch, really. It's difficult to fault it. It's a really good console. And now for the Xbox Series X. A lot has changed now, especially since Microsoft have now announced that many of the Xbox titles are going to come to PS5 as well, like Hi-Fi Rush and many more. So that begs the question, why own an Xbox Series X when you can potentially just buy a PS5 going forward, have access to Spider-Man titles, Last of Us, and Xbox games as well? Why buy an Xbox? And the fewer people buy the Xbox, the fewer there are in circulation, and the less incentive there is for gaming studios to make games for the Xbox, which means that fewer people buy it, and it's a negative downward spiral. So therefore, based on that, I would not buy an Xbox today, because also once you get a PC like I have, almost all titles that are available on Xbox are available on PC as well. And they look better on PC because the graphics are unlocked. Therefore, I can't think of any title except for Microsoft Flight Simulator that I would want to play on the Xbox instead of PC, because everything is just going to look better. But one thing that's good about Xbox ecosystem is that if you buy a title that's first party, like Forza Flight Simulator in the Xbox app, if you buy it for the Xbox, you get the PC copy as well, which is quite nice. I had no idea about it until I got my PC, and then I realized that I could play Flight Simulator and not have to pay for it again. So that is nice. But Xbox has been quite disappointing when it comes to games. The first 2 years of ownership, because I had it from day one, the first 2 years was mainly just playing Xbox One titles or playing versions of those with next gen upgrades, which took a bit of time to come, like 1.5 years, 2 years, or even 2.5. And in some cases, those next gen updates were not really a big of a deal. Like the graphics barely looked any better. If you were lucky, frame rates was unlocked to 60, but for the most part, they just were not worth waiting for. And yeah, a lot of first party titles like Starfield, not that amazing. Hi-Fi Rush, fun, but it's not enough. We've needed significantly more games to make the Xbox feel like it's a fun ecosystem to be part of. And I don't think that's going to change that much. You know, like I can't see that many games on the horizon that are going to save the Xbox and that will not be available on PC or PS5. And if you're mainly buying an Xbox to play casually in the living room, there's a lack of games that you can play with others, because a lot of the games are quite serious, like RPG or shooter games, where there's either violence, profanity, or you need to concentrate quite heavily to play them. As far as co-op titles go, the really fun one that I've played is Brothers, and then It Takes Two. They are really good games. I highly enjoy them. And then the other ones that I've played have been Overcooked, but Overcooked are co-op games, and I find them too stressful to play with others, because you need to put pressure on the other person to perform. Because if one of you aren't at the same level as the other one and you keep on dying or losing, it gets quite frustrating. So when you play those co-op games, you're almost entering a relationship where you both need to communicate constantly, work together, and that can turn into bickering as well and not really make it fun. Compared with what I mentioned on the Switch before, there are many more titles that are versus. So you play against each other in a competitive but cheerful way, or you play together against the computer. Alternatively, it's just a button mashing fest where lots of things are going on, and you can play those games whilst laughing, having a break, or stopping at any time as well, which is quite nice. There are racing games like Forza and a couple of other ones where you no longer have split screen mode, which is a big contrast into compared with racing games in the 90s and noughties for the older consoles, where almost every racing game had a split screen mode, but you don't really get that much anymore. So if you think about buying Xbox for social reasons, to play with friends, that's not really going to happen in the same room. It's going to happen via online multiplayer. Like, I owned the older Xbox in the past, and you could even do split screen when it comes to Halo, either against yourselves or against the computer, but that is rarer and rarer. Therefore, if you're all looking for that couch social gaming, the Xbox is not it. But it's amazing for Flight Simulator. That is probably the standout game where the Xbox showcases its capabilities. It's mind-blowing that you can play a fully fledged simulator game in your lounge on a box that costs around £400, and it's whisper quiet, and you don't need to spend a fortune on a computer or spend like 100 hours on forums asking people about specs and planning the components that you're going to buy. But you can just play that on here. But I know that that's niche. Not everyone is into simulator games like myself, especially flight ones, so it's not a big reason to buy the Xbox. The biggest con for the PC is undeniably cost. PCs can be very expensive, especially gaming computers nowadays. Graphics cards are just getting more and more expensive. For example, my graphics card that I purchased, the 4070 Ti Super, that was about, got it on sale. I think it was about £700. And that is quite a lot of money compared with a console like this one that's around £260, or a Series X that you can probably buy used for £350. So this entire computer cost £1,600, and that's excluding keyboard, monitor, screen. In this case, I already have a TV. So that is a big outlay, and you have graphics cards like 4090 that cost £2,000. However, that graphics card is not relevant to 95% of the population. You don't need the best graphics card to have a really good experience, but cost is a factor. On the plus side, cost is quite relative. You might consider this super expensive at £1,600. However, the latest iPad Pro with 256 gigabyte storage is £1,200. And that's for a tablet. That's non-upgradable, no desktop apps, £1,200. And that's before you've added a case, a keyboard potentially. And if you look at phones now as well, the latest iPhones or Samsung phones, they're around £1,000 or even more. Therefore, is £1,600 really that expensive? Especially since it's also a productivity tool that has a lot of flexibility if you want to live stream or do AI computations, because the 4070 Ti also have Nvidia CUDA cores. So going forward, I'll be able to power Windows AI features locally on my device instead of having to pay for subscriptions. And that is a big bonus, and one of the reasons why I chose Nvidia instead of AMD. The second con about PCs is that they take a lot of time to research. There are millions of different component combinations depending on what you're going to use the PC for, whether you want the game on it, how much you want to spend, how much space you have. Do you want a media case? Do you want an ATX case like this one? Do you want a mini ATX case? Do you want full-size case? Do you want AMD? Intel CPUs? There are a lot of different options, and it takes hours and hours to research. So you might find that overwhelming if you've never purchased a PC. You get choice anxiety, but you also become concerned about potentially buying the wrong components or regretting your choice, whether it's spending too little or spending too much. I built my first computer roughly 20 years ago or 22 years ago. I was much younger. I was around like 14, 15, and it was much simpler back then. Now there's a lot of RGB, there's water cooling, but it's also fun. It's also fun because it means that the computer you end up building is unique to you, and you might go online and never even find another computer that looks exactly like yours, whether internally or externally. But it is overwhelming if you haven't built a PC in a while or don't know that much. And in the lounge, there's a bit of bulk to it. This is quite a big tower, but I chose the fractal North case that is really pretty, and it just blends into my lounge. It looks like it was made for my lounge, but this is a normal size case. You can get mini ATX cases now that are the same size as an Xbox or just a little bit bigger, because bear in mind nowadays the Xbox and PS5 are not small. They're quite big and do not fit inside the majority of TV cabinets any longer. And therefore, if I was to replace this Xbox with a mini ETX case, the PC wouldn't actually take up any more space than the Xbox does. So therefore, you don't need to be worried about having a big bulky box in your lounge that look a bit PC-ish, but actually now there's increasingly more cases that blend in to the lounge or even complement the look and feel. I recently followed Computex, and during Computex I saw a lot of new SSF cases. So SSF stands for small form factor, and there's lots of new cases that fit under there, and also GPUs that can slot into one of those cases. There are obviously pros and cons with a small case, such as heat generation and airflow as well, and that's where the research part comes into it as well, where you really need to research your particular case and how specific components perform inside it. So there is my overview of each one of these. So which one would I buy today if I had the money? If I desperately need to buy a console, there is my summary, the pros and cons of all three: my gaming computer, Xbox Series X, and my Nintendo Switch as well. So would I buy a new console right now, or even a new PC? Probably not. I would hold off for several reasons, and one of those reasons is that I think consoles, phones, and handheld consoles are all gonna get a lot closer together thanks to ARM. I think a lot of them are gonna move to the ARM architecture over the next couple of years, and I think that will start with the Switch 2 successor, which is rumored to be based on an Nvidia ARM architecture system on chip. Xbox have also mentioned that they're kind of working on a handheld, so we know that the handheld is coming, and I might even swap my Series X for a handheld, but I might not do it initially, because I believe that initially the handheld might be based on x64 Windows, but I'm sure that next year or the year after there'll be an ARM version that will be smaller, more efficient, more powerful, and less power hungry as well. And that makes things really interesting, because now I feel like the Xbox is in a little bit of a no man's land. It doesn't quite offer PC graphics, but it's also not as convenient as the Switch. And I think the Switch 2 is going to be frighteningly scary in performance to a Series S. Is ARM going to replace AMD and Intel CPUs in desktops? Probably not immediately. I think that transition is going to take a bit of time, because it's not only about the hardware, but it's about the software as well. We've heard that ARM PCs should be able to run x64 software and games quite easily with emulation. They should work outside of the box. but emulation isn't always perfect, and it only takes one tiny little bug to completely ruin a game or make it unplayable. So it needs to be a bit of a wait and see approach to kind of see, okay, are x64 games going to run perfectly on ARM computers, or do we actually need to wait for ARM version of games? If it's the latter, then that transition is going to take a lot longer. But otherwise, for me, I'm very interested in a handheld Xbox, which technically might end up being a Windows-based handheld with an Xbox UI that just opens right away. And by the way, I would love an OS like that, because it can be a little bit annoying to put up my PC, navigate Windows, and then navigate to the launchers as well. That's it for my overview. Now I'm going to show you some footage of what it's like to own the PC and also the Series X. Like, what is it like on a daily basis when I switch them on? And I'm also going to dive into some of the things that annoy me about each of them, and also the things that I love. So enjoy. One of my favorite things about the Xbox is that it's almost silent. I know, there's quiet and then there's silent. And the PC is more closer to quiet, and the Xbox is more closer to almost silent. So to illustrate this, I have a spare mic. So we're going to put the microphone somewhere there. Actually, let's just put it on top of the fan, and then you can sort of hear how loud or quiet it is. Press the button there. See, it's still quiet. No noise whatsoever. Yeah, there you can hear the disk drive. It's because I have a CD in there. Yeah, it's booting up. You can see Xbox on the telly. And I can move the microphone there. Might be a little bit quieter. So here we go. I need to put in the pin, which I'm going to try to do one-handed. But actually, let me put the phone on my tripod stand. So here is my tripod stand. Excuse the kids' art corner. Snap. Excellent. So now I have the controller. Let's sign in. There we go. It's that quick to go in. And let's fire up a game, or just YouTube. Because the Xbox has a couple of apps as well. I haven't actually signed into this one. But here you can see, there's YouTube. And this brings us to one of the features of the Xbox that we don't speak enough about, and that is quick resume. Honestly, it's basically magical. It enables you to resume into games that you previously played. And this should not be confused with sleep mode. Because with sleep mode, your hardware still needs to be plugged in. It needs to have electricity, and it just saves the current state of the OS, like almost what's in the RAM. But if you unplug the power of a laptop or you switch it off completely, then it will shut down all the apps that are active. But quick resume still resumes even if your Xbox has been unplugged. So I can even unplug my Xbox for weeks, plug it back in, and then I can quick resume into a game. As you see, I've literally resumed into the spot where I left. And if I press the Xbox button, it's gonna take me into Flight Simulator, which is a huge game. And it can sometimes take maybe 2 minutes to fire up. But here, less than 10-15 seconds, I'm in the air. I'm in the air precisely where I left off. And I can press the button again, and it's going to take me back to Hogwarts. So this is a feature, or actually someone is ringing the bell. Let me pause. Door answered, I am back. So with quick resume, if you mainly play online multiplayer games, it's not a deal breaker, because you're rarely going to resume back into a live match. You're likely going to want to resume into the lobby or just fire up the game from scratch. But if you play single player games, especially RPGs, that's where quick resume is amazing. Because for example, a game like Flight Simulator, there's no manual save, like there's no way to save what I'm doing right now. And that can be a little bit annoying, because if I was to fire this game up from scratch, I would start off in the main menu, and then I need to browse to whatever challenge I want to do, or browse to a specific airport, choose the route, the plane, etc. All of that takes a bit of time, like 5-10 minutes to get set up and ready. But with Flight Simulator, if I'm practicing a specific route, I can just press start and I can restart this specific route, do it again, and then if I switch off the Xbox, next time I play Flight Simulator, I want to practice the same landing again, I just continue here. So it is really useful. Some games have manual saves, but others don't. And I really noticed this when I got my gaming PC in November, because I kind of got it and I started playing like Phantom Liberty. And with Phantom Liberty, you cannot save mid-mission, like you need to save at the end of the mission. And that is a problem, because some missions might take 40 minutes to complete, or 30 minutes, or even 60 minutes if you include like restarts, etc. But on the Xbox, I can just press pause, switch off the Xbox, and then next time I'm on the Xbox, I'm in the same spot. But with PC, I almost had to think carefully, like, okay, I'm gonna play Cyberpunk now, it's 9 in the evening, am I gonna have the energy to play for 40 minutes or 1 hour? And if the answer is no, then I can't really play it on the PC, because I can't save. And I also have kids, so occasionally I like to play video games whilst they're watching TV. And if I am able to kind of start a game, but know that if something happens in 15 minutes where they need my attention, I can just pause and continue later on. So that really helps a lot if you have kids. But yeah, quick resume, it's insanely good, but it is one of those features where you can't miss it unless you've had that. But it works beautifully well, and Microsoft, honestly, hats off to them for launching that feature, because it's not really something that anyone asked for before or thought that it's possible. And that brings me to the next thing, which is noise. Flight Simulator, really demanding game, but it's almost quiet in here. Really quiet. Like, you can hear it a little bit now, but you need to be close. Not sure you can hear it now. Yeah, to hear the fan noise, like, you need to put the game on mute and also listen carefully. With some games, you can probably play triple A titles on the Xbox with someone sleeping in the room, and they wouldn't know that the Xbox is on. That's how near silent it is, and it's all thanks to this chimney design. And it's quite clear that Microsoft are pretty good at thermodynamics, because who knew that hot air likes to rise? And it has a huge fan at the top as well, which just keeps the RPM quite low. And it's really great. And it might not be an issue for you if you like to use headphones when you're playing, because you either prefer the sound quality or you want to listen a little bit more carefully when you're playing competitive games. But I like to use my surround system, and that is where having a quiet console makes a difference. It goes without saying that the PS4 and the Xbox Ones were ridiculously noisy. Like, they would sound like private jets, and yeah, doesn't matter what game you play, they would just go woo. But the Xbox, really nice and quiet. And I can see what Microsoft and Sony did. They intentionally made the boxes large so that they can't be put into confined areas where they'll be heat restricted. So that is quite clever. I really like that. And regarding the dimensions and the design, the Xbox isn't pretty. Like, it's just a black box. Like, it's nothing there's nothing unique or exciting about it. For example, the PlayStation 5, it's a bit more alien-like in design. Some hate it, some love it. I don't like the design of the PlayStation 5. It looks bulky, it looks a little bit weird in the stock colors, which is black and white. But when you put like red blades on it or gray blades that are in matte color, it looks amazing. I've seen some fascinating Spider-Man editions as well, and some custom designs. Those ones look really nice and they are lovely to display. The Xbox does have some skins or wraps that you can buy as well, and I might get something like that down the line. As far as the aesthetics of my lounge goes, the Xbox is fine as it is right now. It blends in quite well, and I like that it's rectangular and sturdy. It allows me to carry it quite easily because I do transport it between my house and my girlfriend's house, and I have a backpack for it. It's very durable, it's not broken, there's no loose dangly bits or flaps, and it can also be placed in various ways, like horizontally, vertically, etc. So it's quite durable for like manhandling and fitting into places. But except for that, it's a chimney design. And should I try to land this plane whilst you are all looking? Because I don't like to land on camera because it puts a little bit of pressure on me. But if I ever want to be a pilot, then I need to be able to land whilst other people aren't just looking, but that are on the plane with me. Okay, let me try to land this. We need to brush off a bit of speed. Yeah, going a bit too fast. Airspeed 160 knots. I'm a little bit crooked, so let's bring the airspeed down to like 120. Flaps, let's go to, actually give me maximum flaps. Yeah, we're brushing off altitude quite nicely. 680 meters. And I love Flight Simulator, and what made it great to play on the Xbox was quick resume. I was able to just jump into the game quickly with a controller, and this was before I had the flight sticks. And that made all the difference because I was able to do about 48 hours of flying in about a year, and I'll be watching Netflix or something, and then I'll pick up the controller and I would be in the game within like 20 seconds. So here we go. Landing 130 knots, brush off a bit more speed. Yeah, altitude is a little bit high. Engines 30,000 RPM. Not gonna pull yet, brushing off speed. Not flaring quite yet. Oops, not gonna flare. Oh, I made a mistake there. I flared too soon. Switching off the engine now, and I'm going to let the airplane just come to a nice glide. And the great thing about Heathrow, the runways are really, really long, so you don't even need to try to aim for the start of the runway. Here we go. Oh, I flared too soon. Wow. Yeah. That's an okay landing. Started off a little bit wonky, but there wasn't any bouncing. And there you go. I've landed an aircraft. Here is my PC, and we're going to start off by me showing you the most off-putting part about the PC, which is the startup sequence. And geez, look at all this dust. I told you I was going to keep it real. So here I have a microphone. I'm going to put it there so that we can see how loud it is. Yeah, I can probably hear the fans spooling up quite loudly. And there you go, loud fans. that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about the Switch, Xbox Series X or PC, or if you're on a PS5 and any of these other three. Let me hear your experience about how they all compare and how you're getting on, which one you're considering selling, or which one that you are considering buying. Thank you. One of the reasons why the PC is loud at startup is because the settings for the fans have not loaded yet. They only load once you're inside Windows and the software for the fans has booted up. So now it's quite loud. I can hear it. It sounds like an air fryer a bit. And here we go. Pop-up Mania. And this is the Gigabyte application for the fan noise. It does boot up automatically, but sometimes I'm too impatient and I just click to fire it up quickly. And now the PC is super quiet. It's waiting for a couple more pop-ups. It's quite a big difference in experience compared with the Xbox. And here's the Xbox app. If you click library, you see a couple of my games, but only games that have been purchased through the Xbox store. And here we have the shortcut folder with a bunch of launchers. I have Steam, Rockstar, Nvidia launcher, GeForce launcher, I have Fortnite link, EA Games, Epic Games launcher. It's a mess. I actually want to throw up when I see all these launches, and that's why I have them all in this folder, because yeah, it's so clunky, especially the first time when you set everything up on a PC, because you have to download all the launchers, and for the ones that you don't have an account for, you need to register the account, link them to your Apple login or Google login or Xbox login. Just getting all of that done. It is really tedious, but once it's done, it's not a problem, especially if you have like a password management tool. And something's happening here. MSI, an error occurred whilst trying to replace a file, retry. So the launches are messy. One good solution is just to use the GeForce experience. So this is where I launch all my games from. A Plague's Tale, Alan Wake 2, Cyberpunk, Fortnite, Minecraft, Flight Simulator, Red Dead Redemption 2. So Nvidia has kindly done this, where it enables you to launch all the games from one place. Another bonus is that if you click on a game, you can also press optimize, and then the Nvidia software will basically find optimized settings that are great for your system. And that takes the headache out of fiddling with settings in PC, because you can spend hours trying to get the balance right between frames per second and fidelity as well. So this is really good for casual gamers. Very, very good. I like that. So why did I buy a PC? I purchased a PC because I felt a little bit cheated with the Series X. It's a next-gen console, but the graphics don't really feel next-gen enough for me. For the most part, the graphics are just a little bit of an improvement on PlayStation 4, which I had before I purchased the Xbox. And some games, actually not even some, but a lot of them just run at 30 frames per second. And when we saw the marketing for the Series X and PS5, it was all about 4K 120 hertz. Like, that was the dream, plus ray tracing, but we were never told that you're not actually gonna get all of those three things at the same time. And I got just sick and tired of getting excited about a new game and then the game launching and we only find out that there's a 30 frames per second mode and that a 60 FPS mode is coming later, like 6 months later or 12 months later, or that the game doesn't run in 4K, it runs at 120 and then upscaled using the Xbox. So some games have looked a little bit blurry, and I only learned just how blurry they looked once I got my PC, because even with some games like in the menu, you could instantly tell that the graphics are crispy. It literally feels like you got a new TV. And here I can see that the graphics are a little bit blurry, feels a little bit Xboxy, and I think that's because of the resolution, because I recently played Xbox on a 1080p screen, and yes, there we go, we can see it resolution. I'm going to choose 4K, thank you very much, and now they should go crisp. Boom, my eyes, huge improvement. And with the Xbox you can enjoy 4K in almost any game. Like you fire up a game, even if it's old, you put the graphics up to 4K and it looks good instantly. Every game is scalable, so if you get a new graphics card, the experience is going to improve. Frame rate and the quality at which you can run that frame rate as well. For example, I purchased this PC with an RTX 4070, but last month I upgraded to a 4070 Ti Super, and instantly I benefited from that. But with gaming consoles, you need to wait for an update, and that's exactly what happened when the Xbox launched and when the Xbox Series X launched and the PS5. We had to wait like a year or year and a half for next gen updates. And then also once some of those next gen updates came, they weren't even worth it. Like the improvement was just slight. There are a couple of truly genuine full fat next gen titles that look good, but they're quite few, and there's always a caveat. Either there's no 60 FPS mode, or there is a 60 FPS mode but it's not 4K, or it's a RPG that's very linear. There's like always an if or a but with PC you don't really have that. And it's quite liberating, really liberating, especially since if you upgrade your hardware you benefit right away. And that sounds obvious, but with the majority of products that we buy today, there's no upgradability. If you buy your phone, that's it. Like the storage it comes with, that's all it's going to have, especially if it's an iPhone. Xbox, there is like the expansion port for additional storage, but it's cost prohibitive. Yeah, it does make a big difference. It does make a big difference to have upgradable hardware. Let's see if I can cause a bit of havoc so that you can see what's happening here. Let me also put up the performance overlay. What am I running it now? 59, 60 FPS. Latency around, where's the latency at? Oh, I can't even see. But either way, CPU utilization is at 37%, GPU 85, GPU temperature 60 degrees. Yeah, it's quiet-ish, pretty quiet. Like if you don't have any volume on, you need to listen carefully. But you can still hear that there's a PC here. Like you can make, oh, I want the green car. Please. Get out of this car. Loser. Okay, where's the police? Let's get into combat. Where's police? I can't see police. There you are. I haven't actually played Cyberpunk in a couple of weeks, so I'm a little bit rusty. Let me use this one. Bye. Anyone else coming? No, only one police. Is that it? Oh, there's a car. Let me throw a grenade. I actually forgot how to use these properly. Mantis blade, pow, 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 pow. Boom. Oh, let me just play until I die. Sorry, I look absolutely terrible, but I haven't played this in weeks and I'm trying to play whilst talking, which is not easy. Oh, look at that food there. The Big Show. Looked like something from an ASMR video in TikTok. Right, is that it? I used to get a lot more police officers. I'm gonna slice this car, get out. Sunday Vista. Anyone else? Can I hijack this car? Oh, yes. Let's go. Riding in a police car. Can we have a view from inside, please? Whoops. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to finish here because otherwise I'll get carried away. Cyberpunk session ended. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about the Switch, Xbox Series X or PC, or if you're on a PS5 and any of these other three. Let me hear your experience about how they all compare and how you're getting on, which one you're considering selling or which one that you are considering buying. Thank you.